Hello my friends, thank you for joining me again. This is David Ha'ivri. In this video I am going to be speaking about tying the tzitzit. In a previous video I explained about the Jewish custom, tradition, halakha, to wear a tzitzit. The tzitzit is a four-cornered garment that Jewish people wear with tassels or strings tied to the four corners. And in that video, you can check it out, I described the mitzvah, the commandment from the Torah, and I also provided verses from two books in the Bible. Now I'm going to show you how we tie the tzitzit. So I am tying the tzitzit for a very special occasion that we have in our family. My daughter is getting married next week, and it is traditional for the chatan, for the groom, to receive a new talit, a new prayer shawl, and he makes a blessing covering himself with the prayer shawl, but he also blesses for the new gift. And in this blessing, he also considers the gift of the wife and of establishing a family and the joyous occasion. So we say, Baruch Shechianu v'kihimanu v'iganu lezman hazeh. We bless God that we have reached this very joyous occasion. And he says the blessing on the tzitzit, but he also has the intention to bless on the joyous occasion. So now I'm going to be tying the tzitzit that we will be giving to the groom, to parents, on the wedding next week. And I have here the new talit. There's a new talit in this bag. The talit is the large tzitzit. It's the prayer shawl. Here, this is the new prayer shawl. It's all folded up, and it is large. And as you can see, it already has the strings, the tzitzit, which is the tassels, and they are tied in a certain way. This is according to one custom. There are four sections that are wrapped around, and there are different traditions on how many wraps are in each one of these sections. This is according to a very common tradition, and within each section there's a joint that's made with two knots tied together. The whole tassel or tzitzit is four strings folded over at the place where it is attached to the tzitzit, to the corner. There are four strings. They're woolen strings. The tzitzit itself too is woolen, and the woolen strings, there are four that are folded over and then tied, and they become 8 strings. So there are 8 strings. As I mentioned in my previous video, the mitzvah, the verse in the Torah, in the Bible, speaks of tying a blue string to the corner of your garment. And historically, when in the ancient Israelite people lived in the land of Israel while the temple stood in Jerusalem, there was a very special process of making the dye for the string. Not all of the strings, most of the strings are white or another color, the color of the talit, and 1 or 2 or 4 by different customs or understandings of the verse would be a blue string or a light blue string that is called Techelet. By the way, the flag of Israel reminds us of the Techelet, of the blue in the tzitzit. This procedure of making the blue dye for the tzitzit was lost over the ages. At the time of the destruction of the temple, as the Jewish nation lost our sovereignty, we were forced into exile, and the wisdom of making the blue dye was lost to the people who were in exile. It had something to do with being here in the land and the natural resources that were available to the Israelite people at that time. But currently, in the last decades, different rabbinical scholars have tried to find the ancient blue that was used to dye the strings, and there is an organization that is called Petil Techelet. Petil means the string, a light blue string is the name of the organization, Techelet, Petil Techelet, and they have discovered the means of making the dye. There's a blood of a squid that is found in the Mediterranean that at one time was more common by the shores of Israel, of the land of Israel, and that was used, according to their understanding, to make the Techelet. And this organization has established a farm for raising these animals, these sea fish, and for making the blue according to the tradition. This farm exists in Ma'ale Adumim, or in Kfar Adumim, which is in the Judean desert, and maybe we'll visit there one day and speak and see how they actually do it. In any case, I have been using the blue string in my tzitzit for, I imagine, 30 years, and my future son-in-law, Peretz, also uses the blue string, and my daughter, Hagar, asked me to tie the strings. So here we have a package of the strings that are made by the organization. You can see here it says Petil Techelet, and it has the approval of the rabbis who oversee the process. And it also says in Hebrew Rambam, which is the name of Maimonides. Maimonides is a great Jewish scholar who wrote books on halakha, on the Jewish mitzvot, on his explanation on how to observe the mitzvot, and he writes in his writings a certain way to tie the strings. So this package, this set of tzitzit, it has the white here in as well. I'm going to remove the white that came with the talit. I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to replace it with this package, with the blue and white that's here, and I'm going to tie the strings according to what is considered to be the Rambam, Maimonides process of tying the strings, the way that he ties the strings. In the talit that I use, I tie the strings differently from what I understand from the Sefer HaChinuch, which is another rabbinical source. In any case, follow in the next video and you'll see how I actually tie the strings.